Now, today, Hull's lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender Christian Fellowship are throwing open their doors to St Ninian's Church on Chantlands Avenue in Hull to welcome two guests, well known to the LGBT communities across the United Kingdom. Let's talk to two members of the LGBT Christian Fellowship in Hull and East Riding. Gerald Fox and Lucy Gorman are here this morning. Nice to see you both. Thank you for coming in.
Nice to see you.
So tell me, who is this well-known face that you're welcoming to this area?
Well, we're welcoming two well-known faces. We have Tracey, who is the Chief Executive of Lesbian Gay Christian Movement, which is a national organisation, and also Ruth Hunt, who is the Chief Executive of Stonewall as well.
You mentioned Tracey Byrne. Shall we say hello, Tracey?
Shall we?
Shall we? Hello, Tracey.
Hello, Lucy. Morning.
Morning.
I kind of feel I'm a bit more surplus to requirements here because these guys can talk anyway, having interviewed them and met them before. What shall I say? Shall I say, right, talk, I'll pop out for a couple of minutes.
I won't want anything to go wrong, so maybe if you do just stay here just for backup, you know.
That's fine. Tracey, nice to speak to you. Nice to welcome you to BBC Radio Humberside. So tell me about coming to the city today. What's the purpose of the visit?
Well, I've come because Lucy had invited me, but really what's exciting for me is that there are groups up and down the country now who are doing some really fantastic work engaging with issues of faith and sexuality, encouraging people to make connections with one another, to network with one another, to share ideas and thoughts. It's just a brilliant thing to be doing locally, so I'm really excited to be going somewhere that isn't London for a change, actually. I spend too much of my time going down the railway line, and actually coming up to Hull will be brilliant. I'm looking forward to meeting people I've met before at events like the Greenbelt Festival, and meeting new people as well, really, and talking about what's happening for people in East Yorkshire. I think sometimes we can forget that there are gay people outside London and outside the major cities, so it's great to be having an opportunity to talk to people about what's going on for them and what matters to them.
Yeah, I think it's also the fact that you've heard that our beer's cheaper and our fish and chips are better.
Comment. In fact, my partner went to university in Hull, so it's somewhere that we've got a lot of love for, really. So we're very much looking forward to being up there with you today.
What do you make? Lucy and Gerald, I remember interviewing you too when I stood in for my colleague Blair Jacobs on Sunday Breakfast towards the end of last year. Yeah. And it's remarkable the work that you've done in the last year and as a group, the expansion in the work that you've done. Tracey, how flattered, how surprised, how pleased are you with the growth of the Christian Fellowship, the LGBT Christian Fellowship in this area?
In lots of ways it doesn't surprise me, because I know that those people are out there. I know we've got lots and lots of LGBT people in our churches, but very often it's quite difficult for them to find a rallying point or an opportunity to meet with other people. Often for LGBT people locally, go to a church can be a little bit unsure about whether it's going to be okay and whether it's going to be welcoming. So what's fantastic about groups like this is people know that they can go somewhere where they are going to be welcomed, supported, affirmed, where they can make networks of other people. So I'm not surprised, because I know that there are people out there, but I'm absolutely thrilled that people have stepped up the plate and said, come on then, let's do something where we live. That's brilliant.
Gerald, to get Stonewall here today, to see the work that you've done, to get Tracey here to likewise to see the work, what kinds of messages do you want them to take back with them when they leave the work, when they leave seeing you today?
Well, hopefully they'll see the vibrancy of the group that we're part of here in Hull and the East Riding. It really is a fantastic group. We have people coming not just actually from the East Riding, but we have people coming over from West Yorkshire and North Lincolnshire. So it's a fantastic group. I would also like to emphasise that the event this afternoon is open to anybody out there. The idea is that we're providing a forum to discuss faith and sexuality. So it isn't just for the LGBT community. Normally our meetings are just for the LGBT community, a place of safety and support. But this afternoon is really about inviting people out there to come and join us and to discuss the issues.
There was a piece of news this week, and I apologise, I'm not asking about this particular piece of news directly, but we heard about the Archbishop of York being challenged by gay rights campaigners. Peter Tatchell himself was one of the people that challenged him over Canon Jeremy Pemberton, who's been taken to an employment tribunal. He's had his licence revoked following his marriage to a long-term partner. Stonewall getting involved in that. Isn't that proof, though, that the work that you're doing is great and you're doing a tremendous job, but that's proof, surely, that there is more work to be done?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think no matter how far you go along, you know, we've got same-sex marriage that's now legal, but even when we get it in the Church of England, which I do fully believe that one day we will get get same-sex marriage in the Church of England. It's still about changing people's attitudes. So I think however far you go along the line in getting legal rights, you're always going to be changing people's attitudes. And it's important to do that. You know, we have got a lot of work to do. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, really.
Tracey, that thing about changing attitudes and changing people's perceptions, it is 2014. We talked about hate crime earlier on and issues surrounding that. Are you surprised that we're in a position that in this year, right now, that we're having to change people's attitudes, that hasn't already happened?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm long enough in the tooth. I've got friends who can remember where, before homosexuality was legalised in itself. So I think it's come an enormously long way. But I think it is a difficult thing for people to get their heads around sometimes. It's something very profound about who we are, about how we relate to one another. And for some people, that's a difficult journey to go on. That's often fueled by a particular understanding of Scripture, for example, or particular understanding of the way that God works in the world. So there's actually quite a lot to work through for people. And obviously part of my sadness and part of what fuels my passion to do what I do is the fact that very often where we do see discrimination, harassment, people being treated as being less than okay, unfortunately that seems to stem from some people's understanding of what the Christian faith is saying, and that's never okay as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not surprised. I think there's certainly a very long way to go, and certainly I think the churches and people of faith are going to have to be right in the middle of that, because unfortunately an awful lot of responsibility for that has to be laid at our door.
Gerald, how pleased are you with the reaction that you've received both locally? Are you getting it nationally as well since the movement began here?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. But just to pick up on what Tracey was saying, there's still so much work to do. And I know we've encountered people in the group who were really at the sharp end, really experiencing discrimination and prejudice in their own churches. And what we're about is really helping, supporting those people and changing attitudes.
And Lucy, tell me about today. What's actually happening today?
So the event's called Going Upstream, Faith, Sexuality and Equality, and it's based around the quote from Desmond Tutu about it's time that we stop just pulling people out of the river, but actually we need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. I think that's a brilliant quote. You know, it's not just about kind of doing something about what's going on, but it's also trying to kind of find. It's not. I suppose it's the kind of the whole not just finding a cure, but finding the prevention as well, or going for the prevention. So we're opening the doors from 2:00 today at St Ninian's Church on Trantons Avenue in Hull. And it's really just a time to kind of come along, meet a few of us, ask some questions, listen to both what Ruth and Tracey have to say. And we hope to create kind of a safe space for everyone, that if you're not too sure, then that's okay. Like, come along and ask a few questions. That's fine. It's an open event. It's open for anyone, regardless of sexuality or beliefs.
And Tracey, not just the group that here in Hull that Gerald and Lucy represent. I imagine not just from gay, lesbian, bisexual and transgender people. There is a fascination. There are a lot of inquisitive people who probably have a fascination and want to know a bit more.
Yes, I think so, and I think particularly that interface between faith and sexuality. I mean, I think the overwhelming majority of the population now really don't have a problem with same-sex relationships. People are able, thankfully, to recognise that love is love is love, regardless of the gender of the people concerned. I think that increasingly that's where society's at. But there is this lag around where the church is, and I think people are interested in, well, why has the church got a problem with that? You know, when I've talked to people prior to coming into this role, I was a hospital chaplain, and talking to people about those sorts of issues, friends and so on that I work with, work colleagues, they really couldn't understand where the church was coming from. And you really have to try to understand that before you can begin to unpick and begin to address the injustices, to say, well, you know, this is why some Christians believe what they believe. This is what we would say around that. There are different understandings, different perspectives, different experiences on all of this, but actually it's really important that we engage with the issues, and I think it's increasingly important at that interface between the church and the state, in terms of things like education, people's employment, what happens when people are in hospital, how we employ people like Jeremy Pemberton. You know, there are people out there who genuinely cannot understand why a hospital chaplain can't do his job just because he's married the person he loves. So trying to explore some of those things, there's lots and lots to talk about and think about together.
Tracey, good to speak to you. And your partner will obviously enjoy coming back to Hull as well and seeing some familiar places. Thank you very much, Tracey. Nice to speak to you. Tracey Byrne joining me on the line. Nice to see you both as well, Gerald.
Yeah,
Lucy.
thank you.
What time does it begin?
2:00.
Have you got a big welcome as well for Tracey? Are you going to take her around, show a few places?
We'll take
there
us to
might
the
not be
pub
time.
afterwards.
Frankly, as I say,
What more do you want,
cheap,
right?
cheap beer around here. If she's used to London prices, cheap beer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then in that case. Nice to see you both. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Best of luck with the event. Remind me what times it starts?
2:00, St Ninian's Church.
Have a good afternoon.
Thanks.